Our speaker will start by 10:40. Our speaker will start by 10:40.
I'm a big boy. See laptop.
Our speaker will start by 10:40. He will be speaking on he will be speaking on how to develop your test skill. Our speaker is Elisha Odemakinde again. He is a AI engineer at Parallel Score. Our speaker will start by 10:40. Our speaker will start by 10:40. He will be speaking on how to develop your test skill. Our speaker is Elisha Odemakinde again. He's a AI engineer.
Get which one? Which one is
Wait, I've not muted.
Hmm?
I've not muted.
Please, when is the program starting?
Our speaker will soon be coming online in a few minutes.
Okay.
Our speaker will be coming online in a few minutes. Sorry for the delay. Sorry for the delay. Our speaker will be coming any moment from now. He'll be joining us any moment from now. Sorry for the delay. There was a mix up with some things. Okay, yeah, so our speaker is online now. Um and he'll be speaking. Our speaker is Elisha Odemakinde. Um he'll be speaking on how to develop your tech skills. He's a AI engineer at Parallel Score. So we'll be speaking on how to develop your tech skills. So I'll give the floor to him now to start speaking. Good morning, sir.
Hello, morning. Hello, guys. Hello. So I don't believe you guys are doing fine. Sorry, a minute. Okay. So awesome. I'm more than excited to be on this platform with you all, and I want to say I'm so glad uh, to have myself with you guys. And I'm so thankful to the organizers, the people in charge of this event. So thankful to all who made this event possible. So I don't believe you guys can see me and you guys can hear me. Please, if you can do that, can you please just comment on the chat section? Can you please comment on the chat section and let me know that yes, you can see me, please, and you can hear me.
Sir?
Okay, awesome, awesome. That's awesome. Cool, cool. All right, so I want to believe you guys, everybody here are actually willing to actually begin their tech journey, or you are more or less like willing to be involved in one thing related to tech or the other. All right, just a brief about myself. I'm Odemakinde Elisha. Um, I'm an AI engineer at Parallel Score. All right, so what I basically do at Parallel Score is I build computer vision models and um, computer vision models, language models, and I build reinforcement learning models, to enhance business use cases. All right, okay. I think somebody's voice is popping in. All right. So what I'll basically be talking about with you guys is how do you actually begin your tech journey? Now, one of the things before I dive into that, I would love to actually share my own little story of how I began my tech journey. So my tech journey actually started a please David, please once my time is almost up, kindly give me a DM so that I'll be able to, I won't exceed my time. All right. So when I began my tech journey when I was in my second, was it second year or first year? Yes, when I was in my first year. So, I was this kind of person that was always pursuing GP of a thing in my part one. And then a friend of mine who happens to be a programmer, has been writing computer programs since he was in GS3, you know, we were both in the same or where I stayed then, and then he gave me some materials. I saw him he was writing some codes, and I loved what he was doing, so he gave me some materials. Then I began to look into those materials. Then my laptop was faulty. I had to borrow a senior to do one of his projects, and then it got faulty. So I I couldn't use a laptop, so I kept reading the book with my phone and I kept writing the codes on paper, you know, so until I was able to fix the laptop. So I couldn't actually fix the laptop, I didn't have much to fix. The laptop was a new one, but sent from my hands from US, but I couldn't fix it until I was getting back into my second year. So in my second year, I began to write the program. I joined some online trainings, some online events. So from there, I got very exposed to the field of data science, to the field of programming, and then from there, I began to from there I began to attend tech events. Now, one important thing I would want to lay emphasis on is the fact that you need to always attend tech events like this because that is one of the major ways by which you can stay motivated. That's one of the major ways by which um, you can know what is happening. You can have an idea of emerging techs or emerging trends in technology. So I went for a boot camp in 2017, and from there, I met a friend of mine. I met a friend actually. You know, he's a very good friend of mine right now, and then he introduced me to a boot camp that was about to come up. That was in my part three. I've been programming when I was in my part two, but in my part three, I went for a tech conference, and then he told me about data science, and then I was like, wow, actually I've been doing data science before then, but I never took it serious. But he told me there was a boot camp coming up. So I said, okay, how's it going to be? And he said, it's an all expense paid, is this, is that. All you need to do is to participate in Kaggle, get involved, and the top 100 is going to be selected. I was like, wow, this is going to be a very huge competition. I've not been upscaling my skills. So how am I going to even get in? So, but when he told me about that, I said, no problem. So I told him to share me some materials I'm going to go through and I should start learning. So I began to learn. I just had like just 1 month actually. And then I eventually participated in the competition. The learning was it was, and everything. But I was just actually learning. So I went for the I when the boot camp came for us to participate in the competition because it's a criteria for selection for the boot camp, and that's where you'll be seeing a lot of experts from various fields popping in and popping out, telling you a lot of awesome things. I was like, okay, no problem. I need to get into this. I need to put in my best. So I participated, the day that the stuff was supposed to end. That was 3 hours to the end of the hackathon. It was actually a 2 weeks hackathon. I think 3 hours to the end of the hackathon. That was when I made my first submission, and I was like 90, not 95 out of 105. I was feeling so bad about it. Do you get it? But I never stopped. You understand me? One thing I would always encourage you is encourage everyone on this call is don't ever stop doing what you want to do. If you love something, when the setback comes, you just need to keep pushing. Even if you are falling, you just need to keep pushing. You don't need to, you shouldn't feel bad about it. So I was 95th, right? And they want to pick the top 100. I was already like, okay, that's awesome. Then all of the sudden, I saw that I was 97th. Before I knew it, I was 98th. Like 10 minutes towards but finally, at the end of everything, when the final leaderboard came up, I was 97th on the leaderboard. I was actually still very new as at that time when I was learning this thing. So I went for this boot camp. I met a lot of experts. I got exposed. I saw a lot of awesome people. I met a lot of awesome people. Made new friends. That's how you can. That's how you can actually grow. If you are just sitting behind your laptop at home, there's no way you can actually there's no way you can actually grow unless you're a very strong person that you can do everything on your own, which is actually impossible. You definitely need friends, you definitely need colleagues, you definitely need a lot of people that you can interact with. And one of the best ways by which you can interact with people is if you are actually doing the same thing, or you guys are pushing the same thing. The person you are friend with might have got or maybe experienced that issue. Do you get it? So it will be very easy for you to share the issue with him. Oh, guy, I have this issue. Can you try and put me through on this? Can you try and put me through on that? He can even joint. How do I put it? If two people come together to actually look into a particular problem, the problem is going to be solved much more faster than when it's just you looking at it from just one single angle. Do you understand? So that is the best way to actually grow. You need to attend tech conferences. You need to meet people of like mind. So actually, in the boot camp, I met a lot of people. I made a lot of friends that we are still friends up to today. In fact, a lot of them right now are out of the country and they are doing great and awesome things. Some are working with Google right now. Some are working with Facebook. Some are doing very awesome things that you cannot even imagine they would be doing this year. Do you understand me? That's basically the passion, because we all maintained this connectivity, and we all kept this interaction. Whenever we had issues, we were always reaching out for one another. Guy, I have this issue. Can you help me out with this? Guy, I have this, blah, blah, blah. You understand? So that was basically it. That was basically it. And I kept, after the boot camp, I kept learning, I kept studying. And as a result of the fact that I've had these friends, you know, they were always updating some of their projects. Maybe somebody just worked on a computer vision project and you saw what this person just did. Wow, this is awesome. And another person did something related to NLP, you know, and you are like, wow, this is awesome. It kind of motivates you that, oh, this is cool. Can I also try this out? That was basically the way I was learning. That was basically the way I was learning. I had people that had gone ahead of me that were, very skilled in these things. So I was basically following what they were doing, and I was basically trying to read up. And as I was looking at what they were doing, I was also doing my own research to actually build up myself. Do you get it? So I kept doing that, and that has actually kept me uh, kept me on track to the extent that I began to work for companies. I began to do projects for people, and to the extent that I began to, upskill myself, learn more, and then I finally got myself a job that actually changed everything. So what exactly am I trying to say? What I'm basically trying to say is that with with whatever you want to do, all you need to do is to, number one, you need to have a particular thing that you have passion for. Now, if what you have passion for is to build softwares, okay, you want to just build softwares, you just want to be building softwares. Now the question is, softwares varies. Now the next question you need to ask yourself is, what type of software do you want to be building? You need to have those kind of things in your mind. You need to have that in your mindset. So let's say you just want to be building games, right? You want to be a software engineer that build games. Now, the kind of question you need to now start asking is, what are the type of language, what are the state of the art technology that people make use of building? So the kind of question you want to ask yourself is, what are the state of the art technology do you want to what are the state of the art technology do you want to learn, or what are the things that are associated with that technology that can actually make you to understand that thing? Do you understand? So these are questions you need to start asking. Now, once you've been able to answer that question, for example, you are saying you want to be a data scientist or you want to be an AI engineer, the question you should ask yourself is, what do I need to know to be a data scientist? Oh, I need to be able to write Python. I need to have a little knowledge of maths. I need to have some ideas of statistics. Okay, awesome. Now the question is, okay, how do I get started with statistics? Oh, should I go for an online course? Do you get it? You can sign up for an online course and then you start learning all these things. You start learning statistics, you start learning data science, you know, enroll for a data science course, or you enroll for a machine learning course or for a deep learning course, and you start learning like that. Do you get it? And then another thing you need to also take note of is that you need to know you need to maintain this relationship with people of like minds. And that's the reason why I always emphasize that you attend conferences, you join a lot of Slack channels that are in tune with what you want. If it is quantum computing you want to dive into, join people of like minds. The thing is, if you don't join people of like minds, you get discouraged. And one of the reasons why you get discouraged is because you are not seeing what others are seeing. And because you are not seeing what others are seeing, you definitely lose out. And because you are losing out, you are not getting the feedback you want to get from what you actually love. And because of that, you would want to say you're not doing this thing anymore. You are not motivated. So one of the things by which you can actually stay motivated is by, you know, moving with people of like minds, working with people of like minds. And one of the best ways by which you can see people of like minds is attending conferences related to what you do. Do you understand? So just have that at the back of your mind. That is the best. That is the best advice you can have, and that is the best way by which you can learn. Because when you work with people of like minds, if you have issues, if you have bugs, if you have troubles, you have people to discuss your troubles with. Even though there's Stack Overflow, even though there is, um, Reddit or some other platforms whereby you can actually where people have Git gist or whatever, whereby you can actually see those solutions where you get issues or Bitbucket or GitLab. Do you understand? A lot of people have had that issue and they've solved it. But one of the best ways by which you can actually solve that issue much more faster, because there are actually some issues or some problems that you encounter and you see that people have solved that issue. You try to solve, you want to try the things they tried and it doesn't work for you. Now the question is, what else can you do to solve this problem so that you can move ahead with this your project? So the next thing you need to do is to actually reach out to friends that can actually try and look at the project, that can actually try to look into the problem you're trying to face. And from there, let me tell you something, they will always see it from a different angle. And whenever they see it from a different angle, they won't see it from your own angle. They will always see it from their own angle. And from there, they can actually put you through and say, oh, this is where your problem is. This is where the issue is. I've experienced that a lot. I've experienced that a lot. So another thing that I would, or let me just say, point two is that find time to always to do more of research. Make Google your friend. If you want to actually build up your tech skill, make Google your friend. There's no question that you want answers for that you can't find on Google. Yes, you need to always make Google your friend. Now, point three, which I think would be my last point on how you need to get in, or on how you need to get started or keep moving in your tech journey. I would say this is to keep you moving in your tech journey, and that is always always look for a problem to solve. Always look for a project to start with. Now, if you're just starting with Python, you might want to further for or build up, of course, learn those fundamental things. Or maybe you're starting out with Java or C++. I started out with Python, and then I moved on to C++. You know, then moved on to some other programming languages like JavaScript and the likes. Do you understand? But I write more of Python. Let me just say, on an average day, most of the the language I use the most is Python. I hardly write C++, I hardly write JavaScript. Do you understand? Because of the kind of requirements the kind of job I'm into, and the kind of requirements, the kind of things it requires of me. So that's the reason why. So work on projects, because one of the best, I know that a lot of people, for example, people in the AI field, people in the data science field, people in the machine learning field, they have this issue. And I keep telling people that, see, don't just, for example, if you're a data scientist or you're a machine learning person, don't just build models. You get it? Don't just build models and say, oh, I have this my model in Jupyter Lab. Bring it to the front end. Do you get it? Bring it to the front end. Let people interact with it. You don't have to be a UI UX designer. You don't have to be a full stack web developer. You don't have to be a full stack Android developer. But you can just come up with something that actually illustrates what you've just built. What you've built is actually a system. But the question is, people don't want to know the system you've built. People want to interact with the system. So your system is more or less like at the back end. So one of the things that can actually get you a job in whatever field you've chosen is actually to build projects or work on projects. You can always start with something small. When I started out, the first project I worked on was to build a GUI whereby you can actually, the first machine learning project I worked on was to build a GUI whereby you can load in images, and then do some classification on those images, and it's going to present the results of this classification. That was the first, that was the first project I worked on. It was actually a paid project, and that was the first project I worked on. And from there, I moved on to, building another project called TenseFlex. TenseFlex was more or less like an auto, it's actually a machine learning, um, it's actually a machine learning library that helps to automate networks, neural networks, such that it converges to it has optimal convergence point. So how do I make you guys understand? So TenseFlex is more or less like a library in Python that is similar to AutoML, auto machine learning. Actually, I knew that there was auto machine learning, but the fact is, I want to work on projects. I want to do something. I want to build something. I want to say, oh, I've built something. Oh, I've done this. I've done that. Do you understand me? So, irrespective of whether Google already built AutoML, people are using AutoML, I just wanted to build something relating that can automate machine learning for me. So I built TenseFlex that can help me automate networks that I build. You understand me? Even though people don't use it, or even though I don't use it, but the fact is you built it, and that has demonstrated some level of understanding. So irrespective of whether somebody has built something before or somebody hasn't built something before, all I would advise, my advice for you is just build it. But while building it, always look at what people have done. You can always do something much more better. Do you get it? You don't want to build something and make it less better. If it is less better, it doesn't make a difference actually. But the fact is, you have something to present that yes, you've built. Do you understand? But one thing I always say is always build something. Build something. Always have something in mind. If you're working on a project, always have another project that is waiting for you to come on board and start. Do you understand? So you don't have to finish a project and now start thinking, oh, what's the next project I'm going to work on? Do you get it? So always have those projects lined up. For example, I have personal projects I have lined up that I want to do. Do you understand? Such that I'm always busy, I'm always writing programs, I'm always building this, building that. So, um, this is all I have. This is all I have for you. I want to believe you guys are sort of motivated right now to actually keep building stuff. All I will say is never stop building. Never stop building. One of the best ways um, to actually keep yourself, you know, to keep yourself relevant and to get yourself a fast job is to keep building. And I think I've missed this out, and I need to emphasize this thing. One of the things I would also want to add, let me say point four, is that uh, whenever you build something, push it out for people to see. Build, let's say you have your Twitter account or you have your LinkedIn profile. You need to have, I would always strongly advise you have a LinkedIn profile or you have a Twitter profile or a professional profile whereby you can have your audience or you have your connection. Always push out your stuffs on LinkedIn. I will encourage the use of LinkedIn and Twitter. Push out your stuff on LinkedIn, push out your stuff on Twitter, and push out your stuff on Facebook. Actually, a lot of people, they have the way by which they use their own Twitter. They have the way they use by which they use their own LinkedIn. Do you get it? But for me, I use my Twitter for professional things. I use my LinkedIn for professional things. So people I follow are professionals. People that follow me, they are professionals. Do you understand me? I'm not saying you don't have this, fun parts of yourself. Of course, there has to be this fun part of yourself. You can always tweet that. But as for me, more of my tweets are more of the professional side. So whenever people see my tweets, they see they know that yes, what I've just tweeted is something very important. So they take it serious. Do you understand me? So one thing I would always say is always push out your work. For example, one of the things that actually got me my job was because I actually pushed out my work. Do you understand me? And the person that you know, employed me because he saw my work and he saw the things I've been doing. He even checked my Medium page. You know, most of the times, whenever I do a project, I always love to write about it. How I went about it, how I did it. Just to display technicality. Do you understand me? So all I would say is you can also adopt the same method by writing about what you do. You don't have to write lengthy things. You can just give a brief introduction, something that just explains, communicates the idea of what you just built. Do you understand? And finally, what I would say is always increase the level of your projects. Do you get it? So if you're building something on a small scale now, make sure the next thing you're going to be building is going to be much more bigger than the last one. Do you get it? Make sure that you're just building and you're building something bigger, and then believe me, if you can keep up with that, you're gonna love it. So that's just a little of my tech story that I want to share with you, and I want to believe you guys have been able to learn something. All right. So Emmanuel, thank you for hosting me. UTSSA, thank you for hosting me. Timothy, thank you for hosting me. So I'm open to questions. Or if there's any question, please let me know. And if there's not going to be any question, please let me know. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, hello, Abdullah. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with us. We really appreciate. So, what do you think about free code?
Sorry, I didn't get that question. Can you please repeat the question? Sorry, if you're probably talking, I can't hear you. Probably you're muted. So I guess you might want to unmute.
Um, Thank you, Um, Mr. Elisha. Some participants will send questions to the chat right now for your answering. They'll send questions to the chat right now for you to answer. And
Awesome,
please stay with us. We are waiting for questions right now.
awesome, awesome.
All right, all right. Thank you. I think someone has sent a question. Jabila, she sent a question about. She said she's new to tech, and she would want to know what field she should go into. As Nabila Junaid, and she's asking about UX, what UX is and web development. I don't think we'll answer that questions, those questions, specific questions like that. But what advice do you have, sir?
Okay, if I get the question right, you're telling me she's new to tech. That's number one. And what what aspect of tech would you want to dive into, right? Is that the question?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Wow. That's actually a very difficult one actually because it's not very easy to actually know the kind of thing you want to do. All right. For example, for someone that is very new to tech, there are certain type of questions I would love to ask before I actually tell you maybe you might want to dive into this. Number one is do you love to do hardware, or do you want to be building hardware gadgets? Let's say you want to be building you want to be building robotic stuffs. Do you want to dive into robotics? Do you want to do robotics? Do you want to just be building softwares, or do you want to be building hardwares generally? Do you get it? Now, if it is hardware, right? My advice for you is you have to have some, circuit background. You need to start learning about circuit theory. You need to start building circuits, learn how to use basic transistors, resistors, and all those engineering stuffs. But if you don't have that background, if you don't have the background, then you need to dive into that. You might want to start from there. Do you get it? Then from there, you get yourself some gadgets that you need to actually build those things. And then, of course, like I said, you need to build projects. So I would advise you build projects. But you might always another thing I also said from my talk is that you need to always attend conferences, because that's one of the ways by which you can stay motivated. That's one of the ways by which you can see what people are doing, and you can always build up yourself. So you need to attend conferences relating to what you do. So that is regarding hardware. Now, if it is software that you want to dive into, now the software is kind of very, very broad. So the kind of question you want to ask yourself is, you know, do you just want to be a software guy that does things at the back end, or you want to be the software guy that does things at the front end, the interface whereby the user interacts with. So, and there are some people that they just want to be the full stack type of person that they do both the back end and they do both the front end. So if you are the type of person that loves graphics, or you love building things that draws people attention, you get it. You definitely be the front end type of person. Now, if you're the front end type of person that doesn't like too much of coding, eh, you might want to dive into UI UX, designs. Do you understand me? UI UX. Of course, there's coding in it actually, but it's not. I'm not sure it's too much. I'm not sure it's much actually. But if you're the type of person that likes to code, right? You love to just keep disturbing that keyboard to do some awesome things. You might want to start diving into things relating to maybe Android, for Android applications, designing the front end the way you want the application to look like, or you want to dive into web development, whereby you start with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and the likes. Now, I'm trying to answer your question as best as possible, because I don't really know your interest. Now, if you're the type of person that just wants to, you just want to be building intelligent stuff, you want to be doing things at the back end. You're not the type of person that really likes designs or graphics or whatever. So you might just want to stick to the back end aspect of software generally, which you can basically say it involves things like machine learning, um, what do you call it? Any other thing related to software that doesn't involve the interface or the user experience. You know, if that is the category, then you basically want to dive into backend engineering. And if you're the type of person that loves web development and you don't like you know um, you don't want to be designing the interface, but you just want to focus on the you just want to be coding, you're definitely gonna love backend engineering. And basically you might want to start with PHP, JavaScript, what else? A lot of languages for Python, Django. If you're a Python developer, you might want to start with Django. You want to start with Flask and all those. If you're a Python lover, actually. But most importantly, if you are this person that loves tech and you want to dive into tech, and you are just thinking of one language to start with, right? Which I think could be the answer to your question, I would advise you begin with Python, because Python is very simple to understand. Now, if you understand Python, programming languages are actually similar to each other. The structure is actually similar, but the syntaxes are different. Do you get it? The knowledge you use in solving a problem in Python is the same knowledge you're going to use in solving the same problem in JavaScript. It's just that the syntax is different and the tools, the style of writing is different. So if you want to get started in any programming language, you want to get started in tech, start writing codes to do all some things, start with Python. But most importantly of it all is don't just write programs. Have a reason why you're writing programs. Do you get it? Have a reason why you're writing programs. Maybe you have something at the back of your mind, or you want to be building softwares, or what type of software do you want to be building. Start learning your Python towards that respect. And then as time goes on, as you move on in the journey, you definitely begin to see that, oh, maybe JavaScript needs to come in, or HTML needs to come in, or Android needs to come in, or Java needs to come in, or this needs to come in. With respect to what you desire to do in the future in tech, the right answers begins to come in. I think I'm going to answer your question, right? Is there
Yes, thank you very much. I really appreciate.
Um,
thank you.
Thank you, sir, for answering the question. Um, any other? Are there other questions in the chat?
Syntax is adequate because the knowledge you use in
Um,
solving a problem
there are no other questions in the chat. Really appreciate it, Mr. Elisha.
it's just that
Thank
syntax
you
is
for
different
coming,
from the source.
for speaking at our
Kind of
conference
writing
this
is
year.
different.
We
So
hope you will speak
you
next
want to
year
get
again.
started in
All right.
language, you want to get started in
Our
text,
speaker,
start with
Miss
Miss.
Marlene Malam.
Thank you. Start with Python.
Thank
But
you,
most
Mr. Elisha.
importantly of
So I
it
give
all
the
is don't
meeting to
just
Miss
write
Marlene.
programs.
Okay. Hi, Elisha. It's nice to see you here. I know Elisha from other PyCon
Hi,
events.
Marlene.
Hi.
Nice hearing from you.
Yes, it's
Awesome.
nice to see you. Thank you for having me today, everyone. I'm not really sure exactly what the format is going to be like today, so I am generally just going to be sharing sort of my story about going into tech. And for the most part, I am interested in hearing your thoughts and your questions, maybe about what are some of the barriers that you're facing in terms of being successful in tech. So feel free afterwards, if you have any questions, to ask me, or even to interrupt me when I'm speaking, to ask me any questions if any specific ones come to mind. So I'll start by sharing a little bit more about myself to start off with. So I am, something about me at the moment is I'm currently a student. I'm studying with the University of London, and I'm studying computer science with a specialization in artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I'm about to go into my final year, so I'm very excited to be almost done with school. Really looking forward to be done with it. And another thing about myself, at the same time while I'm studying, I'm also interning with the Rapids team at NVIDIA. So for those of you who don't know NVIDIA is very popular in the gaming industry. It also is really well known for manufacturing GPUs. And basically the project I works on using Python to be able to speed up data science. So we, take we would take a framework like pandas. The specific project I'm working on is almost like pandas, but it performs all the computations on the GPU. And so the work is processed much faster. So it's really interesting work. I really enjoy doing it. And then another thing about myself is that I am currently the vice chair for the Python Software Foundation. And the Python Software Foundation is the nonprofit organization behind Python. And Python, as Emmanuel said earlier, is a really accessible programming language. It's the first language that I knew, and it's the language I'm even using right now. So it's very, very versatile. You can use it to start to learn how to code, and you can use it at some of the highest levels of computer programming. So I would definitely also recommend Python as well. And if you want to know more about what the Python Software Foundation does and some of the work that I do there, you can actually become a member of the PSF by going to python.org and clicking the PSF tab. Or you can send me a message asking for more information if that would be helpful as well. So I'm saying all of these things and they sound, I think sometimes it can come across very impressive and very much like, oh, I've probably been in the industry for so long and I had a very conventional pathway. But I actually have a very, very unconventional pathway into technology. And I really enjoy telling my story because I think it shows just how possible it is to make it in tech or to blaze your own trail for getting into the technology space. So for me, I'm now going to just share my general journey into tech. So starting off, when I was in high school, I'm from Zimbabwe. So I'm actually calling you from Harare, Zimbabwe. And Zimbabwe is in the southern part of Africa. It's just above South Africa. I've lived in Zimbabwe for all of my life, and even with my work interning right now, I'm interning remotely from Zimbabwe. So so when I speak and say all of these things, I'm speaking from an African context as well. But when I was younger and when I was in high school, I didn't have much experience with computers. Like I knew we had a computers class when I was in high school, but it didn't really go very in depth into computers in terms of like computer programming. They really sort of stuck to the basic surface level of teaching us maybe about hardware and things of that nature. And so when I was in high school, I didn't really think that computers were very interesting. I actually thought it was a really boring field with very little to that would make me actually enjoy it. But so during that time, I was very interested in the sciences. I studied for my O-levels and A-levels. I took all sort of the physical life sciences. I took biology and physics and chemistry. And I was at a stage where I had to decide, okay, what do I want to actually do with my life? And I was just like, I'm really not sure, but one thing I know that I want out of my life is that I want to be liked by my parents. I want my parents to be proud of me, and I want to be liked by society. I think society sort of favors certain professions more than others, and I saw, for me, on TV, I saw doctors doing quite well, and my parents also seemed to like the idea of me potentially becoming a doctor. I don't know if that's the same in Nigeria, but like in Zimbabwe, there are maybe 3 professions that you are encouraged to go into if you want to actually make your parents proud. And so I just happened to choose the doctor route. And I mean, and so when I was in upper six, I applied to study outside of the country, and I traveled to the United States. I studied pre-medicine with the intention of going on to medical school. So my major was molecular biology, and yeah, that was my pathway. So I did very few. Again, I didn't come into much contact with computers and with the idea of programming. At that point, I think I'd heard of the general idea of coding, but I didn't really, I didn't grasp that this could be something I could actually do with my life. So when I was in the United States, I studied at a college that was a liberal arts college, and we had these classes where the very nice thing about that college was you didn't have to just take classes based off of what you were majoring in. So we were able to take classes in politics and philosophy and different things like that. And for me, it was really eye-opening because I started to meet people who I noticed were not in school just to make money, just to get a career so they could make money, or just in school so that they could make their parents happy or anything like that. But I met people who were genuinely passionate about the things that they were studying and genuinely curious about trying to fix problems in the world. And that was something that was, I think, a bit of a cultural shift for me, that I started meeting these Americans and people from other countries that, would be spending their money to come to school and study philosophy because they wanted to answer pressing questions in the world. But it started making me think that, okay, maybe I don't have to follow one specific pathway in order to be successful in my life. So there was a period of time where I had now almost come to the end of my college career, and I had to consider whether I wanted to move on and actually go on to medical school, or do something else. I was at the point where I was finishing pre-medicine and I had to apply to medical schools. And there were so many things that were happening as well that made me also kind of doubt whether I wanted to continue in the medical profession. One, it's very expensive to study medicine in the United States. And so I was like, ooh, I don't know if I want to be in all this debt as well. Another thing as well, it was just, there were so many different there were things that I was doing in the labs that I didn't feel quite motivated me in the same way that I wanted to be motivated. So I came back home to Zimbabwe for a summer. And during that summer, I decided that I wanted to spend the year sort of trying out different things and trying out what I thought would be, could be good for good potential career options. And so I went ahead, and for about that year, I talked to my parents and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna try to do a bunch of things and we'll see if that works out. If that doesn't work out, I'll go back to school and I will continue the medicine route. And I was still applying and things of that nature. But it was a very long line of sort of events that led up to this, but I ended up starting an organization that the goal of that organization was to help to empower young women in my community in Harare. And as part of that, I decided that I had wanted to actually give these young women like a physical tool that they could use to improve their lives. And one of those tools I thought would be technology, that I wanted to teach them technology, because another thing that I had discovered when I was in the States, I had a roommate that had come in as a math major, and she, at that point as well, she was an international student as well. She was from Malaysia, and she came back one day and she told me that she was changing her major to computer science and from mathematics. And I remember her telling me that she decided this because she had created this program where it was very cold in the States, where we were in Pennsylvania. And so she created this program that kind of mapped the warmest parts to walk through campus, where the computer would just kind of sense which parts of campus are likely to be colder than other parts. And so it would tell her, actually, today go this way or go that way. And it was very cool to actually see that she created something useful, that was genuinely useful out of, from her own mind for herself. And so all of that came into play, and I decided I wanted to teach girls how to code. And at that point, when I made that decision, I had almost no experience at all with computer programming. I had pretty much zero experience. And but I decided this is something that I thought would be helpful. And so I connected with the local Python community in my community in Harare. So there was a Django Girls group, and one of the leaders of the Django Girls group, who has now become a very good friend of mine, Ron, he said, yeah, I can help you do this. I can help you create this sort of coding program. And it was through that I actually then discovered Python programming. And I continued to sort of create this program where we were helping to connect girls with code and to teach them, the basics of creating a website and things like that. And while we were doing that as well, I also was picking up programming myself and saying to myself, oh, wow, this is actually a really good field to be in. I actually really enjoy coding and creating stuff from scratch. And the community was so friendly. During that time, I actually turned this initiative into a nonprofit called Zimbo Pi, and we try and empower girls to get connected with initially with computer programming and with technology. And so it was through that experience as well that I then got connected to the broader Python community just outside of Zimbabwe, so around the world. And I got connected to the PyLadies community. And at that point as well, I met with some people who then encouraged me to run for the board, for the PSF board. And I ran when I was very, very, I was very, very unsure of myself. I thought that I really didn't think that I had what it took to be able to make it onto the board. I remember the year that I was running, I had just been programming for about a year, for even less than a year. And I had been running this nonprofit, ZimboPi, and I felt like I didn't have much experience. And the people that were running for the PSF board of directors were people from Google, people from Disney. There was someone from Disney, the computer program from there. There were just lots of amazing people that were running at the same time. And I was just like, oh, and there were no Africans as well that were on the board. So I was just like, I don't know if this is for me. But the person who was my mentor at the time as well just encouraged me, no, you should just do it. You should just take the risk. And if you fail, it doesn't matter. There's nothing that you're not going to die. And so I ended up running, and I ended up making it onto the board of directors, and sort of being part of this nonprofit that helps to get people connected to Python programming all around the world. And so that was a beginning, I think, as well, for me to understand that, number one, I would say if there's something you should take away from this talk, the major first thing that you should take away from the talk is get connected to community in some way or form. Your network is going to be so, so important if you want to break into technology. Your network is going to matter, because the people who you interact with and things of that nature are the people that are going to connect you to the right jobs, to the right opportunities. Even for me, the way I got my internship with NVIDIA was through networking and through people. They actually found me through a PyCon, through the Python community and the work that I had been doing there. And so they approached me to interview to be able to join this company. And so that's the first thing that I would say is opportunities are going to come your way if you're connected to the community. So try and do that. And not only your local community, go out of your way to try and connect to international communities. That's even going to give you even a step further to be able to push your career forward, I would say. And to also do good work and meet nice people as well. And so that's a really important thing. And another thing it taught me as well very early on was about taking risks, that even if you are unqualified for something, if you are not sure that whether or not you have the qualifications for something, just take the risk and do it. You never know what will happen. And you can ultimately regret it if you don't end up taking the risk. And so for me, choosing to run for the board of directors, even when I felt like I was unqualified, was a big risk for me, but it ended up paying off. Even choosing to be part of this, when I interviewed for this position that I currently have, that I'm interning with, I also felt like that was a big risk, because I felt like, I'm not sure if I have as much skill as I should have to be able to be qualified for this role, but I ended up making that as well. And so that's something that I would encourage you to do as well, is to make sure that you're taking as many risks as possible and putting yourself out there in order to break into the industry. So at some point, just to wrap that up as well, after this, I spent quite a lot of time teaching myself how to code. And at that point, I hadn't fully committed. I was also trying to save up the money to be able to start school, because I was just like, okay, I need to now stop medical school and that route. And I'm going to start again and study computer science, because this is what I feel like I'm going to enjoy and I'm going to be passionate about. And so during that time period, I was teaching myself to code Python. And there's so many resources online. There's so many free resources. There's so many communities where people are so willing to be able to help you and to help you learn and to help you move forward in your career. So I would definitely encourage you to take advantage of all of those opportunities that are there. We're living in an age where there's so much information. You can literally teach yourself how to be a programmer, and go from there. So I think that is where I'm going to stop. I want to have a little bit of time for question and answer before my session is over. So does anyone have any questions for me, maybe about anything I've said or about breaking into the tech industry, anything that would be helpful for you? I don't know. I think you can post your questions in the chat and I will answer them if you do have any. If you don't, that's also okay. I see Nabila has a question.
Okay. All right. If you have questions, you can post them in the chat or raise your hand, then we'll unmute you. Thank you.
So I saw Nabila Junaid, I think, has a question. Do you want to, you can either type it in the chat or say it out loud, I don't mind. I'm also Marlene_ZW on Twitter. So if you do have any other questions as well, feel free to send me your questions on Twitter. You can DM me or you can tag me in a question and I will try my best to answer.
All right. I think some people are about to type questions now on the chat. So please, could you wait for some minutes?
Sure.
And you can unmute yourself if you want to ask questions. You can unmute yourself to the other participants. If you want to ask questions, you can unmute and ask your questions. Thank you. Okay. I've gotten some questions from the YouTube streaming. If someone asked, how do you decide this similar question to what Nabil Junaid, the person that asked the question first time asked. So what's your perspective on that? How do you advise a person um to choose their field in tech?
Okay. Right. So I think tech is a really wide industry, and there are so many fields that you can choose to go into. I would say, for example, I would say begin with mastering the basics. Just figure out how to look for a YouTube video or something like that, figure out how to build your own website. That's a basic thing to do. Another thing to do, I wouldn't say it's a basic thing, that's not good, but that is a foundational thing to be able to learn how to do. Building a website, either using Django, even just HTML and CSS, that's a really good foundational point to have. Another thing to do is figuring out how to work with data, so databases and things like that. I'd say starting off with a tutorial on how to use pandas, for example, is a really good starting point to get you introduced to data science. For example, if you were interested in hardware, another thing to be able to do is to start simple with something like CircuitPython or the Adafruit boards. They have some starter sort of kits, or even with Arduinos. I think Arduinos are fairly easy to get in Africa. Other things are sometimes difficult to get on this continent. But Arduinos, if you go into a hardware or computer shop, you should be able to find an Arduino and be able to just play around with the hardware. So I would say give yourself some time just to be curious. Just experiment, try as many things as you can, and try to finish things. So try to finish a project, try to finish a project in web development, try to finish a project in data science, try to finish a project with hardware. And then I think through that, you'll be able to get a feel of the different fields that are available and what you like and what you don't really like as much. So Python is a great language for that, because Python is able to take you across the spectrum with those things. You can use Python for building websites with Django. You can use Python for your databases, like with pandas. You can use Python for hardware with CircuitPython, for example. And so Python is a really good language to start off with that. For me, for example, I thought that it would be easier to do web development and sort of UI work, but for me, I ended up I tried it and I was just like, I actually don't really like web development. It's quite difficult. Design is quite difficult, to be honest. And then I found that I really enjoyed the engineering side and working on algorithms and things like that. But that was all through experimenting to be able to find what I enjoy. So I would say, as much as you can, just be curious to be able to do that. I'm seeing a question. So Nabila is saying, I'm in between what I want and what my parents want. I like going into computer science in secondary school, but my mom thinks there's no gain there. Now I'd like to change into computer science. Do you think it's never too late? It's never too late. I was at the end of a pre-medicine degree. I had spent, I don't know how many years in this degree program. Initially quite a big push behind that for myself was that I wanted to make my parents happy. I wanted to make sure that I was doing something that they could be proud of. But at the end of the day, you are the one that's going to be living your life. So you have to make that decision, and you have to try to get your parents to be on board. Computer science is such a big field. It's growing so rapidly. So maybe show them some of the statistics, show them some of the salaries that people are getting in computer science. They're good salaries in this field. So maybe they just need to see that to be able to be convinced. But I would say it's absolutely never too late. I only started programming, I would say, less than 5 years ago. And I feel like I've already made so much progress, even though I didn't have a conventional start to my career. So I'd say that, Nabila. And then Abdallah is saying, how can you help set a path to learn data science machine learning from scratch? So I think there are a bunch of, so machine learning is a bit more complicated because I'm not sure. I actually have not delved too much yet into machine learning. I know a bit about it, but I don't know enough to be giving advice about machine learning. But I will say for data science, a good place to start is to start with tutorials. I think Pandas is such an easy library to get started with. It's really, there's lots of Pandas tutorials where you can learn about databases and things like that, and how to sort of play around with different types of data. And then from there, like I would say, just do as many tutorials as you can. If possible, for me, one of the things that I have found really helpful is that actually working on a project is going to help you so much. It will help put into perspective some of the things that you have learned in tutorials. If you are able to get an internship or something like that, that's also very helpful. So I would say try and build as many projects as you can. in relation to your data science, machine learning space, and also connect with the community that is doing those things. Open source is a really, really good way to get ahead in the field. If you can start to contribute to some of these open source libraries, particularly the popular ones, I've heard of many people that have gotten jobs through just starting to contribute to open source. So that's a great question. And now Ayomi Po is saying, what advice do you have for someone that's having problems trying to explain how relevant he or she is doing to the family members that are so bent on discouraging him? So I would say again, like I mentioned earlier, it's really tough. Like I can relate so much because it was quite difficult to it's quite difficult to make that transition. And I think I know from my own family, there's like a lot of like, you need to respect your elders and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, the first thing is you have to convince yourself. Like if you are not convinced, no one is gonna be convinced. So you have to convince yourself that this is the field that I want to be in. This is the field that I feel like I can bring value to. And I know that this is a good field to be in. So first of all, convince yourself. And then after you've convinced yourself, it's a good idea to then back that, to go to your family, maybe with like some practical things. So for example, you could show them the statistics on how computer science is a field that actually has more jobs than people. We are at a deficit of skills in computer science. And so it's very likely compared to any other field that you would get employment in the computer science space. And like I said, show them the statistics on your sort of your salaries and things like that, that there's so many people that are earning a lot of money in this field, and you can, the ability to earn a lot of money in computer science is a lot. So I would say definitely do that. And then if they are still discouraging, if they're still not coming on board with you, then I would say
downstairs.
Then I would say just do your best and just continue to be resilient and just continue to do what you feel is the right way forward. So I think that was the last question in the chat. What do you think one has to look for in a community before joining? I mean, the key things that can help a beginner. So I think there are a lot of, and I saw a question that I didn't answer before about how to help set a path for beginners to learn. I will get back to that. I think for community, there are a few things that I think you need to be clear about for yourself when you're looking to join a community. So one, it's what do you want to get out of community? Do you want to get relationships and networks? If that's the case, maybe look for the largest communities or the most prominent communities you know. Those will be able to connect you to people who are even abroad and things like that, who can maybe help you with more connections on that space and that level. If you are more so looking to join community for learning and things like that, then there's specific communities where they will have more learning resources than others. And I think trying to actually getting clear about what you want to get out of a community is helpful when you're looking for a community, because usually you can find out off the bat what these communities emphasize or what they focus on. There are some communities that are primarily focusing on education and things like that, which is great. There are other communities that are also primarily focusing on job creation and connecting you with jobs. And that's also great. And you can connect to those. So I would say definitely look for, first clarify what you want and then go from there. And so the final question I will answer is, how can you help set a path for beginners to learn? I think as a beginner, you have to I think you just have to be curious about learning, and you have to just not be intimidated. I think code can come across very intimidating when people are starting off. And so for beginners, I think a lot of the times you need to create spaces where people don't feel like, oh, this is going to be really difficult. I would say maybe start off by working on projects where you can actually see immediate results. So whether that's, there's a great tutorial called the Django Girls tutorial where you'll be able to build a website in like 2 or 3 days from scratch. You'll be able to build a blog. And so doing things like that at the beginning where you can see immediate results is really nice, so that you can be able to be introduced to the field and feel like you're progressing. Because sometimes I think just starting off with a lot of theoretical work is sometimes not helpful. Even in my computer science classes, initially we started with quite a lot of practical work where we could actually see what we were creating. Some of it was theoretical, obviously, but being able to see what you are learning and creating is really helpful, I think, for beginners. And if you want a list of resources that you can use, I will hopefully share a list of some resources through my Twitter that beginners can use when they're getting started as well. So I think that is my session is coming to a close. Thank you very much for the questions, and I really enjoyed being able to speak to you. This was my final talk of the year, so I'm happy that I could be able to join you for this. So yeah, thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you, Marley, for the great session. I still have a personal question to ask. Are you all right? I've noticed that most people learn from the application side of things for like how to apply programming languages. Like for a data science engineer, the person probably learned from websites like Data Camp that they teach specifically AI, Python for AI, not Python itself. So, what do you think? Which approach do you think is better in learning? Is it learning the language first and mastering it, then going into applications, then trying your hands at different possible applications for the language, or focusing on one application, then learning it down the other way? So, what approach do you think is the best for programming in that sense?
Well, I think different things work for different people. I think for myself, I would say having practical things to do was helpful when I started learning. So practically not just being like, okay, this is what Python looks like, this is a list, it's good to know those things, but I think also having a purpose in your learning is really, really helpful. So for example, for me, it was really helpful to be like, I'm learning this because this allows me to build a website. And this is what I would need to be able to do that. I think that really helped me to do that. I think once you've created something, you'll be more curious about the basics, the fundamentals of that. So I would say if you can do both at the same time and maybe read on the fundamentals of the language, there's a lot of great tutorials. There's a site called Real Python. There's a free sort of course called Automate the Boring Stuff, for example, where all of these things, Automate the Boring Stuff, I would say is really fantastic in combining those two things in terms of learning the basics of Python programming, as well as getting practical building practical projects. But you'll be doing that at the same time as learning the fundamentals of the language. So I think there's programs where you merge the two, and I think those are probably the most effective.
Thank, Thanks, Marlene, for the reply. Um, Thank you. We totally appreciate you for speaking to us. Thank you.
Problem. And
Yeah.
if anyone wants to reach out to me, I will type it here in the chat as well. This is my username on Twitter, and you can feel free to reach out to me and ask any questions. I might not get back to you immediately because I'm now on holiday, but I will get back to you at some point with answers for your questions. So thanks everyone. Thank you for having me and have a great rest of your conference.
Thank you, Marlene. We appreciate it. All right. If we have more questions, you can send it to the chat. You can contact Marlene at her Twitter handle. She just posted it on the chat. That's Marlene_ZW. And okay, so I want to talk about UTSA and what UTSA is about. A community of hardware and software developers. In We started in OAU, Obafemi Awolowo University in Ile-Ife, Nigeria. So we're planning to go to more universities and create branches there. But what we basically do is we teach people about um, ranging from electronics to programming to data science and to design, 3D design and 2D design plus product design too. And we give them projects to do that will be applicable, project stroke products to build and ship. So we help with the funding for the project, and we teach them in a learn by doing environment. So the community helps the beginners to move up, the to learn from the masters and from to learn the basics and to learn from the masters. All right. So um, if you have any questions, post it there. And I would love to tell you, follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter account is UTSA on Twitter, and on Instagram, if I'm not mistaken, is UTSA_OAU. Follow us. You see posts, and we also do hackathons, online hackathons. We had an hackathon last month. We had 2 winners for the hackathon. It was really interesting. It helps you develop your programming skill and it pushes you to solve problems as quickly as possible. Also, we plan on having hardware hackathon. The one we had last time was a software hackathon. Then we plan on having hardware hackathons that will give you problem scenarios. Then you build solutions to them. Over a period of time with probably with a group of people or alone. All right. I will be showing a screenshot of the events we've had and our conferences. We've had previous conferences. Those were live due to coronavirus. That's why we're having our conference on Zoom this year. We had conferences last year and 2 years ago, and they were live, physical. But this conference is due to COVID-19. We had to make it online. So I'll be showing some pictures and giving context to them. It might be boring, but just to show you how big a community UTSA is and tell you about what we do. I'll be telling you about what we do as we go on. I'll be taking you on a journey on what we do at UTSA. So I would start with this. I'll share my screen soon. I'll share my screen soon. But also I would love to tell you that um we enjoy input from anywhere in the world. If you are from Zimbabwe, as Marlin is from, or from South Africa, from anywhere, we love the more the merrier, because 2 heads are better than one, 4 heads are better than three. So we are a community, as we said, and we tried out. We've made it a conducive environment for anyone to learn anything. You have a network of people that are willing to teach you as much as you would love to learn. And it helped me because I started programming like actively at one of UTSSA's boot camp. My name is Davy, by the way. So I would share my screen soon um, and show you pictures on past conferences and events we've had. My laptop is so just give me some time. I'll get the pictures rolling and I'll show you some. So and if you have any questions about UTSA, you can send it to the chat. So I have something here on my screen that I'll share now. Um, some pictures on my screen that I'll share. Um, this is a picture. This is a picture of um, this is a picture of the design we made for our conference last year. Um, yes, sorry, our U code competition, our hacking competition last year. It was sorry this year, last month rather. It was very interesting. We had two winners, Ibrahim and Sochima Biragu, if I'm not mistaken. It was a very very no, it's taking some time to load. It's taking some time to load. It's taking some okay. I think it has loaded. It's taking some time to fully show on the screen. So I will show you some other pictures. So this was a few months ago. We actually had the competition on Aka rank. As much as we had a lot of applicants, up to 180, if I'm not mistaken. Then they use different programming languages. I think we're able to get like 6 different programming languages used: C++, C, Python, and Java, if I'm not mistaken. All right, and it was because we had very very tough questions, custom made questions for them from um, basically to some extent they had to build an algorithm for a chessboard, for the movement of pieces on a chessboard. So it was a very very interesting. I probably it was a learning experience for the participants because some were like they had to learn new things about the programming language they were using, and we encourage you. We'll have another one probably early next year. We'll have another competition, equal competition, and we are planning to make it head to head. You can send a message to the chat about what you think about that. We'll make it like group stages. We'll have group stages. Then um, we'll create matches, head-to-head matches, we'll give you questions. Then your code, your algorithms will be graded on the basis of runtime and how early you submit. So and efficiency, that's runtime. That's basically runtime and the size of your code. So it was a very, very good learning experience for for the participants. For the participants. And as you can see our handle on the picture. UTSA Oife on Twitter and Instagram. On my screen now is our winner, one of our first place winner, Ibrahim. Okay, yeah, Ibrahim. He's into machine learning and blockchain. His story is there. He said he started learning how to code with his mobile phone, which most people did. Then within 3 years, he had a system and participated in several competitions, and he just won U Code 2.0. Anyone can do anything. You just have to put your mind to it and focus. That's what I believe. Also, this is Felix Ayola. He's a programmer too in OAU. He has participated in some of our conferences and is part of the community. So he's very, very knowledgeable about programming and tech. we usually communicate on a group. We have a WhatsApp group which I will send which I will send to the chat, to this Zoom chat for you to join if you're interested in joining UTSSA. So he's a very experienced programmer and he is actually a designer too, a 2D designer. Then this is one of our speakers. Let's check out the story. He said he started coding with Code Legos on Code Academy, and then he moved to C++. Then he moved to C++, um, then he moved to C++ on solo learning. Then he got a laptop and started practicing. And I want to emphasize the importance of practice. Someone I was discussing with someone, and the person said programming is like math, in the sense, not in the sense of math is not difficult, but in the sense of practice makes perfect. That as much the more you practice, the easier it will be for you to solve problems, the more confidence you get. And I've noticed that with programming, the more you practice, you might not know when you get to a question that is very, very difficult. Because you've practiced and you are confident about solving questions, it will be far, far easier for you to solve this question. The next question that comes your way, the difficult question. So he said he took Python and it was ridiculously simple compared to C++. Some people say so that C++ is a lower level language than Python. It's true, but Python has some. Let's just C++ and Python are different programming languages, and someone saw what he could do with Python during a project UI challenge and introduced me to data science. He's into data science by the way, machine learning. We have a machine learning community at OAU that we collaborate with on events and conferences too. So we have these ethos of the more the merrier. So we collaborate with other tech communities. We are currently collaborating with Python developers, Python Ife. That's a community of Python developers in OAU at the university we are based in. So it helps, the more you learn from different perspectives, it will help your programming experience to be easier. Then it will help you have mentors that could help with difficulties you go through, and they will help you. It will make your path easier. They will tell you that this tutorial is no good, this tutorial is the best, stuff like that. So it will help make your path easier. And this is the story of one of our speakers in this conference, Elisha Odemakinde. He said he began at the local tech events back in his part one days at the university we are based in. And he said it was organized by some guys in the OU tech space. He was inspired to, he said he could, that when I heard of building microchips in Nigeria, creating softwares that can meet people's needs and others, he took this up, then kept attending more tech events. The more you attend tech events, it will help networking mainly. It's all with networking. So you have to place importance on attending tech events a lot, as much as you can. It helps with networking, it helps you see people differently, and it helps you learn a lot of stuff. All right, so um, these are the winners. We had and second, first and second in our conference. In our contest last month. Um, the picture is not loading, but we had a second to Sochima Biragu. He's a student of, okay, Sochima Biragu Everton. He's a student of Yaba Tech in Lagos. That's another state in Nigeria. He participated online and I think he programs in C++ and Python, if I'm not mistaken, and JavaScript, a lot of programming languages. So through the contest, we were able to communicate with him. We talked, we shared contacts and stuff like that. So we had a group for the contest where people are communicating, though not on the contest questions per se, but on just communicating, connecting with people, networking with people, and it was very interesting. We were able to meet people from different places. and from different towns, different disciplines, different entry points into programming language, into programming. I have a friend that's entered into programming through system administration on Linux. I entered into programming through web design, JavaScript, and the like. So it gives you different perspectives to programming. Someone that entered through system administration, he started tech through system administration. He has this more command line approach to things. He likes keyboard stuff, no GUI, stuff like that. What you see on TVs, what you see on hackers do on TVs like Mr. Robot, TV shows like Mr. Robot and the like. So, but me, I started programming through um, web design. So if there's no UI for me to work, if I'm not working, do I use terminal, I use GitHub, I use stuff like that. But if I'm and Git Bash, so if I'm not if I don't have a UI, I'm immediately put off at first. Not that I'll still try, I'll force myself to. So there are different approaches. Your entry point actually shapes your perspective of programming and like, and the more people you have with different entry points into programming, it helps you see things from their side of view, the advantages of the tools they were able to get through the entry point. It helps a lot. So basically, what UTSSA is about is making sure that we'll be able to connect. The full meaning of UTSSA is University Technology and Science Student Alliance, and what it means is that tech students create products and project stroke projects that science students could advise on, give their specific point of view on. I'm currently working on a project for a smart farm, and I plan on communicating with um, agri engineering students and agricultural science students on our group in our community about the different, like, beyond programming itself. Community gives you different perspectives on a particular project. Someone was saying something that tech, beyond making tech for techies, you have to make tech general when you are creating products for general people, like an electric car, a computer. For people like everyday people, you need as much perspective as you can get, and that's what hardware engineering, embedded systems, which I'm into, is about. So that's that's a basic overview of what UTS is about, and our ethos, as much as possible. We heard from Marlene. She's the vice chair and director at. She's the vice chair and director at Python Foundation, the non-profit organization behind Python programming, computer programming language, and that's a very big deal. She's very humble, but she's a boss. She's a boss in air quotes, and she's the co-founder of Zimbo Pi. I think that's the Python community. Zimbabwe for Zimbabweans, the Python community for Zimbabweans. She's based in Harare in Zimbabwe. That's the capital city of Zimbabwe, and she's the current chair for PyCon Africa. So she's very experienced, and she told you her story that it was a roommate that was based in math, that that studies math, that's interested, that spurred her interest in programming. So getting as many perspectives. She was a pre-med student, but she had a roommate that was a math student. So the the what I can learn from that is that the she had the perspective of someone, she had the mindset of someone, that she was able to see what someone in maths could do with programming, and she got interested in it. Then that's the thinking of the person rubbed off on her. So basically, that's what user is about: trying to get as much perspective of people as possible, and making sure that we have a cohesive environment where a communication based environment, community rather, that makes sure that we learn as much as possible and as well as possible. Because me learning about blood pressure, I'm currently working on another project which measures patients blood pressure and the likes. So for me to actually master that, it takes some time. I have to Google stuff, I have to check some stuff. But it was far easier when I chatted my let me just say someone I know that is into medicine, a medical student in quotes. So he was able to help me. He explained some stuff to me about blood pressure, systole, diastole, and stuff like that. So getting first-hand information, apart from the internet, getting first-hand information about stuff like live, it gives you easier connection. What communities do, it gives you easier connections to people, and you get first-hand information about things. All right, so um, I think that's all for now. We would love to hear your questions on the chat. If you have questions, send them on the chat. And you can unmute yourself and ask questions if you want to. And if you want to share your story, open the floor is yours to share your story. Um, do you have any question or any contribution in the sense of if you want to share your story and like, do you have questions and contributions from people? Um, okay. Um, all right. Um, are there any questions that I would love to ask? Are there any questions we want to ask? From okay, I'm checking the chats now. Can't seem to get any question there from people. But if you have questions, you are free to post them and ask. We hope you had a nice time with us. It was great having you here. It was amazing having you here. And we hope to see you in we hope you join our community and in future conferences and events. We hope you join us. Thank you and um thank you. We'll soon close. We'll soon end the meeting. So in a few minutes we end the meeting. But I want to give us space to ask questions. If you had questions, okay, I really learned a lot. Thank you, Abdul Hamid. Learned a lot from you too. We appreciate having you here, rather. If okay, I think someone is asking a question on the. Okay, so I'll send the um if you are not, you could, if you are not on our group, if you are not on our group, UTSSA group on WhatsApp and Telegram, just send, just say I'm not on the group. You can send it to the chat now, so I'll add you to our group on WhatsApp and Telegram. Okay, and again, UTSA is a community of hardware and software. I don't want to. We do hardware too. We do hardware development in UTSA, like embedded systems projects on with Raspberry Pi, Arduinos, electronics. So we ship products to, and we try our best. We don't ship products. We build projects that we see that will solve problems in the community. Projects specific to Nigeria or our closer community. That's really fair. Obafemi Awolowo University. So we are building projects, the smart farming project. There's a lot of land here, unfollowed on cultivated land that aligns with it. So we are trying to automate the farming process. That so that what we are doing with the smart farming. Then the medical diagnostics. We've noticed that um, some students, some patients in hospitals, there are generally lack of like data on their vitals and stuff like that. There's a general lack of data on vitals and stuff like that. and it will help to learn to use models, machine learning models, to learn signs probably for an upcoming heart attack, maybe 5 hours to an heart attack, creating models to learn stuff like that. So we are trying to gather as much data as possible with that. It's an hardware project that diagnoses, like that checks your vitals, then sends them to a database online. Then if there's any event, maybe you get better or stuff like that, it will log it to our database online. So that was another project we're working on. And we plan on working on mini satellites with a company. We plan on working on mini satellites with a company. Mini satellites are satellites that are tiny satellites that are used to for different things, mainly weather forecast. They are mainly used for weather forecast, and they are very efficient because you can have multiple number of them, and they could still work. They still have almost as much processing power as large satellites, though they are usually suited to one specific purpose in um, one specific purpose for satellites. So that's what UTSSA is about. Since there are no questions, we appreciate you coming for the conference. We hope to see you next year and consequent future events like contests and the likes. Thank you, we appreciate it, and goodbye. Thank you.